Okay, so what is cow grades? So first of all, daily tasks, animal record. Okay, if I just type in a cow, 1667, you'll see on the top right hand side this cow grade, and essentially it's a score out of 10. And what it means, it's really the potential for this animal to remain within the dairy herd. So it doesn't mean, if the cow's got a score of, let's say, 7, that cow could well have been your best cow, but she's now in the 6th or 7th lactation, so her potential to remain obviously drops. So really, that's the way to look at it, is the potential for the cow to remain within the dairy herd. And the idea behind it was a little bit, when we're logged in, sometimes we look at you checking the cows, and on the first screen, we can see that this cow's got super production, good fat, and good protein. And then the next thing you obviously do, we can see that she's pregnant, which is great. We go across to lactations, and you check out the lactation. And we can see that the projected 305 for this cow is 12,500 litres, so really good. You'll then go across and look, and you'll check somatic cell counts. Have we had any problems with mastitis? So we look here, I'm going to select for this cow, all lactations, and you can see here they're really super somatic cell counts, no problems. We then go over to reproduction. So we know production's good, we know the health side is good. What's she like at getting in calf? So again, we look at all lactations, and you can see all these factors here contribute to this cow having a score of 9.3 out of 10. So if we just close that, that's a cow that's obviously doing really well. If I just go back into the cow records, and I'll pick out another cow. This was a cow that I was checking earlier, and I could see that the production was very good. So we can see she's fresh calved, that's the blue bit there. But if you look at the cow grade, it's only 6.3 out of 10. So first of all, again, we'll check production. So we can see she's had some lactations, but the production, again, 305, 12,500, so really, really good. We go over across to, let's have a look first at reproduction. What's she like to get in calf? I pick all lactations again. So 2 services, 3 services, 4 services, just 1 serve there. So she's not doing too badly. So at this point, I know this is a cow that's milking well. I know this is a cow that we can get in calf. We then go across to milk recordings. This is the reason the cow's score has been knocked down to 6.3. So we see really high somatic cell counts. If I then go across and I look at all lactations, you'll see here she's kind of been a persistent offender, basically. So production really, really good, but high somatic cell counts. If we then go across, we'll have a look at another cow. So we'll have a look at cow number 63. So again, I'm going to go across to here, have a look first of all at lactations. Again, super production, really, really good. We'll have a look at milk recordings. Somatic cell counts are good, fat and protein is good. Look at all lactations. Looking here, somatic cell counts, great. But again, cow grade is 5.4. So what's the problem? I go across to reproduction, and I can see here 5 services in the current lactation. If I look at all lactations, so this is the reason that this cow, the score has been downgraded. So really what it's there for is to give you an idea about this cow, so that hopefully if you look at a score and you see that it's low, you can then dig a little bit deeper into it. And it's really handy because on the app, you can actually see the cow grade there as well. So how do we actually calculate it? What's behind the sort of the calculations? So if we just close the cow record down, we'll go back right to here. Whereabouts do we find it? Well, it's in costings, and it's there. So cow grade is actually part of the big farm module. And if we just go into the reports, this is what it looks like. So first of all, loads of figures. There's cow number 1667 doing really well. I'm just slowly going to take you through it and just show you how you can actually set it up for your herd, because it's really, really important that you put in the figures that you're looking for, because obviously people are on different contracts. So fat and protein could be more important. Longevity of cows, all these things have an influence. But first of all, I'm going to start with properties. So what we're saying here is, if the grade, you can set this up, if the grade is over a certain value, then you can say, yes, that's an animal I should be breeding from. Or if it's below a certain figure, then that's maybe an animal that we should be consider perhaps, unfortunately, culling. So you can put those values in. You can say, well, that you want that to be. And just one small thing on advanced, what this does, if you tick this, for example, I would like this to be here, lactation number. I save settings, I say okay. You'll now see that it will recalculate the whole report, but then I've got the lactation number sitting here as well. So that was in properties, and we picked that up from the advanced tab. So remember, if you make a change, you could put current age if you want that, obviously. Hit save settings, and then that will be there every time you go back into the report. So that's on the left-hand side, what we actually want to see. But then the important part is in here. I go to settings. Okay, so you'll need to know the SPP. For those of you that are not familiar with SPP, or you want to know what is a good value or a bad value for your herd, there is a good webinar on it, but please give us a call and we'll quite happily log in and we can explain more about standard peak production and why we think is particularly important. Really, if you have milk meters, that's when it becomes, that's when this value really comes into its own. But what it means is that if you put an average value in, if the score is higher than that cow, if she's above that, we'll get a higher value. And if it's lower, then obviously her score out of 10 will be lower. You can put in, for example, number of lactations, what you're looking for in terms of longevity. What is an acceptable calving interval? So again, if it's below 380, she's going to get a good score. If it's above it, then the score is going to start to drop. Somatic cell count, what's an acceptable threshold? And then I think this is really important, the fat and the protein figures. So you set that framework up for your farm. Obviously, we come out with the default one, but you need to change that because obviously different breeds, what your requirements are, that's going to be really important. Then if I just explain, I will come back to that in a second actually, but if I just explain here what we've got, if I look at 1667, I can see her score is 9.3. And what we're looking at here is the current SPP and the previous SPP. Now for that, she gets a score of 10. That's great. Where does it come from? How is it calculated? Well, if you tick there, the cross, that will then open it up and that will then show the cow's values. So she's been scored down slightly because I said I only wanted 5 lactations and she's already a third lactation animal. So she gets a slightly lower score. But you see on production, really high. Calving interval, really high there, 340, 362, she gets a little bit marked down again. And again, these fat and protein figures, that is based on the figures that we put in settings, and dependence on that, that will then determine the score. So when you're looking at it, if you want to look at all of them, if you just go across to here and you go expand all, then you'll have the scores out of 10, which determine the cow grade, and then the actual production values that sit below that. So you can see why that has been calculated. Okay, finally, one thing that you can do, if you remember that this cow score here is 9.3, if I go across to here, settings, I've shown you here where we can put in the thresholds, but we're also able to do is we're able to kind of hand steer it a bit, so put in a weighing factor. So what you can do is you could say, I'm going to say that production is everything for me. That's the most important thing. So if I tick the current lactation and the previous lactation, that's the most important weighing factor. That will then adjust the score accordingly. So you're able to pick up, for example, on protein percentage for the current and the previous, fat, somatic cell counts, mastitis. So generally, I have everything on normal. If there's something that I'm not particularly worried about, maybe I completely changed the management on the farm, so the previous lactation is not so important, then of course you can either ignore it or give it a lower weighting. But generally, it's going to be normal, and you'll just mark the elements that you want as highest. So I've changed it now. We go to OK. It then recalculates. It's not a massive difference because the production was actually already good, but it's now gone up. This cow score has gone up from 9.3 to 9.4. So just to kind of go back, right back to the start, what are cow grades? Cow grades are a score out of 10 that reflect for the potential for that animal to remain within the herd. You can put in what are the threshold values on your farm, how important those are. And I think it's just a very good indication that, if you're going to serve and you're going to use whatever, a dairy bull, whatever, on a particular cow, and that score is 7, it should just be there as a warning for you to look at and think, oh, maybe I need to dig a little bit deeper. Is this a cow that I should really be breeding from? So cow grades, another module within the program. As I said, part of Big Farm, cow's head, costings, that's where it is. It's on the cow record. It's on the app so that you can see it whenever you're looking at a cow. We think it's a good tool. It's just a tool, obviously, but give it a go. Any questions on it, please call us, and we'll very happily set this up for you. So that's not too bad. I haven't talked too long. I will now open up to questions and hopefully make them tricky for Emma. If you have got a question later on, just send an email. We'll try and answer it. If you've used it, please tell us, because that's good as well. If you're actually using it at the moment and you're happy with it, again, please tell us, because we want to know your experiences, whether they're good or whether they're bad. Okay, I've got absolutely 0 questions. It's a fairly easy module. I think it's fairly easy to explain. So if you could just answer the survey, I really appreciate that, because it just gives us a guide. You know, are these too long? Are they too short? Are we picking the right subjects or not? And we hope to see you at the webinar next week, which will be feed calculation, which is a big subject. So we split it into a morning session and an afternoon session. I'll try and keep it to 15 minutes each way. But as I said, there will be a movie circulated later. So thank you very much for your time, and yeah, look forward to you attending hopefully next week.